Hi and welcome to the channel. I am the Grumpy Old Hermit. Today we are going to look at a video by Matt Powell, one of the biggest liars among apologists. Or, I could be wrong. It's possible he's just a retard. Let's watch and see if we can find out which one Matty Boy is.
A good answer to the origin of the universe is that God created the heaven and the earth. But a bad answer is the idea that everything evolved out of nothingness and somehow an infinitely dense hot point exploded and created everything that we see.
Wow, off to a good start there. Hey Matty, you have a problem with the universe being created by what you call nothing but a dense point that exploded. How do you keep saying that? It has been explained to you a million times that there was no explosion, no big kaboom. It was an expansion. It was not some kind of explosion that sent matter flying into space. The Big Bang refers to the expansion of the universe itself. There is no center from which everything came. The universe expanded in all directions at the same time. Kind of like when you blow up a balloon. On the other hand, you actually believe the universe was created from nothing. After all, you tell us that God spoke and everything just popped into existence. Am I right?
How long would it take for a rock this small to morph into a rock this large? You'd say that it would never happen, right? And that's exactly my point. The Big Bang.
Have you ever looked at how geology might work? That little rock in your hand could not evolve into a bigger one for a couple reasons. 1. Rocks do not evolve. Evolution is part of biology, not geology. Rocks do not ever evolve. And 2. That little rock in your hand did come from a bigger rock, maybe even the one in your other hand. I am curious, though, if you think that when a little rock breaks off a bigger one, do you think that the rock just had a baby? I'm just curious because you don't seem to see the difference between geology and biology.
Bang theory states that all of the matter was condensed into an infinitely dense hot point of energy, and this piece of dust somehow exploded and created larger pieces of rocks. And think of this, how can you take particles of dust and convert them to water? It's not possible. How could all the water in the universe have existed as energy, they say, in an infinitely dense hot point? It's not possible. The Big Bang is objectively false. But yet, according to many atheists, the Big Bang is the most plausible explanation of origins, and that is just not true. It is a lie.
Oh my God, Matt. Why are you lying? This has been explained to you so many times. Matter did not spew out into the universe. I will explain it so that even a moron like you can understand it. The universe began expanding outward from a very hot, dense point. As the universe expanded, it cooled enough for neutrons and protons to combine. As the universe continued to expand and cool, these hydrogen's nuclei eventually captured electrons to form neutral hydrogen atoms. Alongside hydrogen, small amounts of helium and trace amounts of lithium were also formed. Eventually, hydrogen and helium began creating nebulas because, gravity. And this process was the beginning of star formation. These stars lived out their lives and supernovaed. I'm not sure that's a word, but oh well. And when it does that, it produces the elements like oxygen, carbon, neon, silicon, and all the other elements you can think of, including like iron and gold. All these things. These then use gravity to coalesce into planets and asteroids and comets. And we have just been expanding the universe ever since. And I'll bet this will be news to you as well, Matt. The universe has lots of water. When a star explodes, it sends its elements out into space. And this is where hydrogen and oxygen combine, usually on a piece of dust, creating hydroxyl, which then combines with another hydrogen atom to make a water molecule, H2O. Where do you think the 2 comes from? This is not a lie. This is basic chemistry. Maybe you should have learned high school chemistry from someone other than Kent Hovind.
The only thing that could have brought about life and this matter and energy that we see around us is the Lord God. The Bible tells us that in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Now remember, evolutionists don't just think that life evolved. They believe that rocks evolved. Like I mentioned earlier, they think that tiny rocks that were smaller than a period on a page morphed into rocks as big as planet Earth, and a bunch of galaxies and oceans, and all sorts of different elements, supposedly, according to them, came from a tiny piece of dust. That is how bizarre that this theory is. That is how huge of a lie the Big Bang Theory is. It gets very loony as you look into the fundamentals of Darwinian evolution in respect to stellar evolution.
The only thing loony here, Matt, is you. When you look into the Darwin theory, he does not talk about stellar evolution. There's no such thing. Evolution deals with biology. I'm sure that you think science is just one giant thing. It is not. It's many disciplines. Some overlap, some do not. Cosmology and biology do not.
Did we just appear here? No, obviously something with a high amount of intelligence had to create you and I and every piece of matter and energy that we see around us. It's the only explanation of origins that makes any sense. When you start looking at other alternatives, you enter into the science fiction world, and this is why atheism is based in magic. Because if I was to say that a rock just appeared in my yard from nothing, nobody would believe that. But yet we're supposed to think that the entire universe just popped into existence from nothing with no God? It is a belief in magic that atheists hold to. It is not scientific in any sense whatsoever.
Man, I don't know if I've ever seen anyone less self-aware than Matt here. Atheists do not believe in magic. You do, though. As I've already explained, only Christians believe the universe popped into existence by magic. God spoke the universe and everything in it into existence. Popped it into existence, with a magic spell.
The idea that dust morphed into water is quite laughable. And even if we pretend that the Big Bang actually happened, which it didn't, but if we enter into fantasy land, let's consider it. Okay, you have rain that's occurring on Earth, on this molten piece of rock, for millions of years, which supposedly sparked the first single-celled organisms. Well, what are those organisms going to eat? There's no other biology around, right? So what are they going to eat? Hard rock? How are these organisms going to survive?
Ah, man, this is just getting childish. The first organisms would have fed on the chemicals around them, and possibly through photosynthesis. We know that happens because look at plants. There would have been nutrients to provide energy, which is what food is, energy.
And even if you had a single-celled organism come to life in soup, it's just going to produce worse copies of itself. Remember, we're copies of our parents, and our parents are copies of their parents. We are all copies off copies. We are breaking down genetically. We are not evolving. We are actually devolving, and that's what science has shown us. Just look at how many more diseases we have now than the human population had back in the 1800s even. There were way less diseases than there are now. And what that tells us is that the human genome is deteriorating. That means that we were created with a very good set of genetics at the beginning, and we have degraded since. We did not evolve from a common ancestor millions of years ago. I mean, come on. They're saying now that we descended from a jellyfish, that all mankind can trace back to a jellyfish. That's ridiculous. It's much more plausible to suggest that God created us out of the dust of the ground, and He breathed into our nostrils the breath of life, and that man became a living soul when God brought us into existence. Not when some fish fell in love with another fish and somehow over generations produced you and me. That's a fairy tale. That's not reality. That's not science. It's a false religion that atheists believe in. And so that's why I made this video, because I don't want anybody to be tricked anymore by falsehoods.
Life creates worse copies of itself. We are devolving. Where's your data? There's nothing to back up this blatant lie. Your little chart of diseases doesn't show what you think it does. What it shows is that as science improves, we can identify and treat more diseases. For example, we no longer think like Jesus did, that epilepsy is demon possession. And while we did have more dense bone and heavier muscle, notice that the average life expectancy when that was the case was around 25 years old. You would already be dead, Matt. And yeah, you stupidly keep calling science a religion. Well, I guess you can think that. I can't stop you. But science has data, lots and lots of data that can show what they claim to be true. All you have is a bunch of old ancient writings thrown together to create the Goat Herder's Guide to the Universe. In other words, your only argument is, hey, trust me, bro. All the ways I just showed you wrong, Matt. and that I know that these things have pointed out to you many times before. I just have one question for you. Are you a liar? Or are you just retarded? Because it's either one or the other. But either way, you need to stop spreading these lies because you don't have the first clue as to what you're talking about. Open a damn textbook. Go to a college class. Talk to a professor. This information is easily available, and all you're doing is misleading people just for your own sake. Anyway, that's all the bagging I'm gonna do on Matt for today. You just make my fucking brain melt. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe. See you next time.